Welcome back to the Warp Gate. Seems like the whispers in the warp are bringing us right back into the heart of the Horus Heresy.
Right back in. Yeah, and today we're looking at a moment that I guess really kind of echoes through the entire Imperium, the fall of Magnus the Red.
Yeah, Magnus the Red and his Thousand Sons Legion. Okay, so last time, if you remember, we took a little side trip.
We did.
Agoru.
Yeah.
Goru, that planet that was just buzzing with psychic energy, and Magnus and the Thousand Sons. Well, they found some things that probably should have stayed buried.
They really did, and I think those whispers on Agoru, they were more than just echoes of the past. They really foreshadowed the growing distrust between all the Primarchs.
Right.
That the very foundation of the Imperium
Was cracking.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, get this. Buried deep in the vaults of the Inquisition, we find records of a vision that haunts Magnus the Red. And this is even before the first shot is fired in the heresy.
Before the first drop of blood is spilled.
Yeah.
And they describe it as so vivid, it's almost like he was actually there. He sees Horus, his brother, turn his back on the Emperor and plunge the Imperium into civil war.
Talk about a backstab.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's brutal.
Yeah.
So this vision, this isn't just some bad dream he had.
No.
This really sets him on a path. You know, a path that's paved with the best of intentions, but it leads to some really bad places.
Absolutely. It's the catalyst for everything. It's really the driving force behind his actions.
So let's rewind a little bit. We need to understand, I guess, who Magus is and what makes him tick. What can these inquisitorial records tell us about the Red Cyclops and his thirst for knowledge?
Well, the scribes of the Inquisition, they paint a picture that shows Magnus's curiosity wasn't just a quirk. It was an insatiable hunger, exceeding even that of his superhuman brothers.
Hold on. I mean, wasn't that the whole point of the Primarchs? Weren't they all supposed to be like geniuses and the best of the best?
Sure, but even among them, Magnus stood apart. His pursuit of knowledge wasn't just a means to an end. It was his very essence. It's like trying to stop a star from burning.
Okay, so how did that thirst for knowledge shape his legion? Because, I mean, we all know that the Thousand Sons, they weren't really known for, like, brute force.
Absolutely not, no.
Okay.
Unlike other legions that were focused on conquest and warfare, the Thousand Sons were scholars first. They built great libraries on Prospero, their homeworld, amassing knowledge from across the galaxy.
So imagine these towering structures, filled with ancient texts, scrolls from long-lost civilizations, all whispering secrets of the universe.
Oh, yeah.
That must have been something to see.
Yeah, it's incredible, but their pursuit of knowledge led them down a dangerous path. They delved deep into the mysteries of the warp, that chaotic realm of psychic energy.
Hold on. Wasn't that a big no-no? I mean, didn't the Emperor specifically forbid anyone from, like, messing around with the warp?
Yeah, he did. And the Emperor, despite his own immense psychic power, he understood the dangers of the warp better than anyone. He saw the potential for corruption, for madness, and so he issued a strict edict forbidding the use of sorcery, the manipulation of warp energies.
So Magnus was basically walking a tightrope, trying to balance his thirst for knowledge with his loyalty to the Emperor. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, so much. The Inquisition reveals that this inner conflict, this clash between ambition and obedience, was already brewing long before the Horus Heresy even erupted. The incident on Shrike. Shrike's a perfect example.
Shrike. Okay, fill me in. What happened there?
So imagine a joint campaign.
Okay.
The Thousand Sons and the Space Wolves.
Oh, that's a fun combination.
No, right.
Two legions with drastically different philosophies, working together to bring this rebellious world back into the fold.
Right.
So you've got Magnus with his Psyker scholars.
Yeah.
And then you've got Lim and Russ and his, savage pack of warriors.
Right.
That does not sound like it would go well.
And it didn't. What happened?
Well, the records are a little bit fragmented, but they talk about clashing strategies, mounting tensions, and ultimately this disastrous incident.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that widened the rift between Magnus and Lim and Russ.
Okay, so what exactly happened?
Well, it seems that a Thousand-Son Psyker lost control of his powers during a battle. And he unleashed a wave of psychic energy that just wreaked havoc.
Oh, that's not good.
No.
Psychic energy going haywire.
No.
That never ends well.
Never.
Who cleans up that mess?
The Space Wolves,
Ah, yes.
who already viewed Magnus and his thousand sons with suspicion, blamed them for the devastation. They saw it as proof of their recklessness,
Yeah.
their dangerous dabbling in the forbidden.
So Russ, who's already kind of wary of psychers, sees this psychic meltdown firsthand,
Yeah.
and his suspicions are confirmed, and whispers of sorcery and heresy start to swirl around Magnus and his legion. Right. And those whispers found fertile ground. Remember Mortarion, Primarch of the Death Guard, harbored a really deep hatred for anything psychic. He had seen firsthand the devastation wrought by warp entities on his homeworld.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've got two Primarchs now, Russ and Mortarion, who are already predisposed to distrust Magnus.
Yes.
And then you throw this incident on Shrike into the mix.
Right.
Which just pours gasoline on the fire.
Yeah, it does.
This is a recipe for disaster.
And that disaster takes shape at the Council of Nicaea.
Ah, yes. Yes, the Council of Nicaea. The inquisitorial archives really paint a vivid picture of this gathering. I mean, it was a big deal, right? A council of Primarchs convened by the emperor himself to address these concerns about psychers within the legions.
Absolutely.
And for Magnus, it was a trial by fire, a public condemnation.
Public condemnation.
Yeah, the accusations, I mean, they came fast and furious, right? Sorcery, heresy, consorting with warp entities.
Consorting with warp entities, yeah.
Now, wait a minute. Consorting with warp entities, isn't that getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here?
Perhaps, but the seeds of doubt had been sown. Magnus had already ventured into forbidden territory, both in his pursuit of knowledge and in his actions on Shrike.
Okay, so he's on thin ice.
He's on thin ice.
And Russ and Mortarion, they come to deliver the knockout punch.
Right. Russ, fueled by his warrior's instincts and his deep distrust of anything psychic, he presented his case with a brutal eloquence that swayed a lot of the Primarchs.
And Mortarion, I mean, the Grim Reaper himself.
Yeah.
He added his chilling voice to this chorus of condemnation.
He did. Recounting the horrors he'd witnessed on his plague-ridden homeworld, blaming psychers for the suffering and corruption he'd endured.
I mean, it's almost like they were waiting for this moment to publicly denounce Magnus and his legion.
It was a very well-played, I'd say, political maneuver.
Right.
They really expertly played upon the Emperor's fears, his deep-seated wariness of the warp.
So what about Magnus? I mean, did he even stand a chance?
He tried. He argued passionately that his pursuit of knowledge was for the good of the Imperium, that he never used his powers for evil, that he only sought to understand and control the warp's energy.
Did he mention that vision that he had, where Horus betrays the Emperor?
Yeah, he did. He pleaded with the Emperor, revealing that vision in a desperate attempt to kind of sway his judgment.
Didn't work, though.
No, it didn't.
Damage was done.
It was done. The seeds of doubt, they'd taken root, and the Emperor, already wary of psychers, was swayed by the accusations. And he passed his judgment. Magnus was censured, his authority curtailed, and the Legion was forbidden from using their powers.
Imagine that. Magnus.
That's gotta be humiliating.
This brilliant Primarch, publicly humiliated.
Oh, yeah.
His life's work condemned.
Right.
His legion stripped of their very essence.
Tragic.
It's a tragic blow.
And the tragedy is that he genuinely believed he was doing the right thing. He saw his pursuit of knowledge as a way to serve the Emperor, to protect the Imperium from the very threats that lurked in the warp.
It really is Shakespearean, isn't it?
It is.
A hero brought down by his own virtues, right?
Right.
But this is just the beginning. I mean, the Council of Nicaea was the spark. But what really sets Prospero ablaze is Magnus's attempt to save his sons from a horrifying fate.
Yeah, the flesh change.
The flesh change.
A terrifying mutation that twisted the Thousand Sons into something monstrous. And this is where Magnus's story takes a really tragic turn. Imagine you're a Thousand Son, a warrior scholar, your mind just burning with psychic power. You've dedicated your life to knowledge, to understanding the universe, and now your very essence is turning against you.
Yeah. Not exactly a day at the beach, huh? The flesh change. What exactly was going on with Magnus' sons?
The records, they describe horrific transformation. Your body warping, twisting, mutating into something monstrous. Your mind, once a beacon of intellect, clouded by pain and these primal urges.
Dude, that's some nightmare fuel right there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like a couple isolated cases, was it? I mean, this was spreading throughout the whole Legion.
It was. The flesh change was like a ticking time bomb, threatening to consume the entire Thousand Sons Legion. And for Magnus, it was personal. I mean, he was watching his sons, his most brilliant minds, succumbing to this this nightmarish fate.
Okay, so put yourself in Magnus's shoes for a minute. You've just been publicly humiliated, your legion condemned, and now your sons, they're turning into monsters. What do you do?
He was desperate. I mean, he was forbidden from using his powers. His access to the Imperial libraries, it was restricted. He was cut off, isolated, facing this agonizing situation with very few options.
So what did he do? I mean, did he just sit back and watch his legion fall apart?
He didn't. He made a choice, a desperate gamble. He reached out through the warp to contact this powerful entity, a being of immense knowledge and power that promised a solution.
Okay, hold on. Isn't that like making a deal with the devil? I mean, dabbling in the warp is dangerous enough, but actively seeking out a powerful entity, that's playing with fire.
Right. It was risky. It was fraught with danger. But Magnus, driven by love for his sons and desperation to find a cure, he believed that he could control the bargain. I mean, he was Magnus the Red, right? A Primarch, a master of the warp.
Pride before the fall, right?
Yeah.
Classic tragic hero mistake. So what was this entity? What did it promise Magnus?
The records are pretty vague, but they hint at a being of immense power dwelling within the warp, a creature of pure psychic energy and ancient knowledge.
Okay, so imagine this. Magnus, at his lowest point, reaching out to this entity. It's like something out of a horror story, right? A desperate plea in a darkened chamber, shadows whispering promises of power and salvation.
Right, and the entity offered a solution, a way to stabilize the flesh change, to halt the mutations, to save his sons from this horrific fate.
I mean, that sounds almost too good to be true. What was the catch?
There's always a catch, isn't there? The entity's offer, it wasn't an act of altruism. It was a bargain, a pact made in the shadowy depths of the warp.
Okay, so what did Magnus have to give up? His firstborn son, his favorite library card. What's the price of stopping, like, a cosmic mutation?
The records aren't clear on the specifics, but they hint at this subtle manipulation, a hidden price that Magnus, in his desperation, he failed to see. Perhaps it was a subtle shift in allegiance, a loosening of his loyalty to the Emperor. Perhaps it was a promise of future service, a pact made in the heat of the moment that would have dire consequences down the line.
So Magnus, desperate to save his sons, agrees to this bargain, thinks he's outsmarted this entity, thinks he's in control. But, I mean, the warp, that's a tricky place, right? Nothing is ever what it seems.
Exactly. The warp is a realm of deception where words have multiple meanings and intentions are often veiled.
Yeah.
And Magnus, blinded by his desperation, he walked right into the trap.
So he gets his cure. But at what cost? This feels like the beginning of the end for Magnus and the Thousand Sons.
It was a pivotal moment, a turning point that set them on this path to ruin. The bargain with the warp entity, it didn't just save his sons, it bound them to a destiny they couldn't foresee, a fate intertwined with the machinations of chaos.
Hold on. Chaos. Are we talking about, like, the big bads?
Yeah.
The chaos gods? Is that where this is all heading?
It's all connected, the whispers on Agoru, the growing distrust between the Primarchs, the Council of Nicaea, the flesh change, the bargain with the warp entity. It's all part of this grand tapestry.
Yeah.
Woven by the unseen hands of fate, drawing Magnus and his Thousand Sons towards this tragic destiny.
Okay, so we've got this epic tragedy unfolding. A Primarch falling from grace, a legion teetering on the brink of damnation. But what about that vision that Magnus had? The one where Horus betrays the Emperor. What happens with that?
That vision, it haunts Magnus. He knows the Horus Heresy is coming. He sees the galaxy consumed by war and bloodshed, and he's desperate to warn the Emperor.
So does he send like an intergalactic email? Hey, Dad, just a heads up, Horus is going to go rogue. Thought you should know.
He tries something a little more dramatic. He attempts to directly contact the Emperor, using his formidable psychic powers to pierce the veil of distance and send a message to Terra.
That's the heart of the Imperium, right? The Emperor's palace, the most fortified place in the galaxy. Good luck getting past security.
But Magnus, driven by his vision and his desperation, he wasn't going to be deterred. He believed that only a direct message, unfiltered by intermediaries, would convince his father of the danger.
So what happens? Does he get through?
He encounters a barrier, a powerful psychic ward woven around Terra, protecting the Emperor from intrusion.
Okay, so imagine Magnus, this psychic powerhouse, trying to force his way through this ward. It's like trying to break through a wall of pure psychic energy.
Yeah, it was a formidable barrier. designed to repel even the strongest psychic attacks. But Magnus, fueled by his desperation and his conviction, he wouldn't be denied.
So what does he do? Does he just give up?
No, he makes another fateful choice. He breaks the Emperor's edict. He uses his forbidden psychic powers to shatter the ward and send his message to Terra.
Whoa. Talk about a power move. But I mean, broken the Emperor's like most sacred law, that's got to have some serious consequences.
It was a catastrophic error in judgment, a reckless act that sealed his fate. The shattered ward, it exposed Terra to the warp's chaotic energies. You know, a breach in the defenses that sent shockwaves throughout the Imperium.
And the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
I bet he wasn't too happy about this little intrusion.
He was furious. The Emperor had already censured Magnus, forbidden him from using his powers. This act of defiance, this blatant disregard for his authority, it was the final straw.
So what happens next? Does the Emperor send him a strongly worded letter? Or does he go for something a little more impactful?
He unleashes his wrath.
Yeah.
He dispatches Liminrus and the Space Wolves to Prospero with a chilling order: bring Magnus back, dead or alive.
Oh, man. That's bad news for Magnus. We're talking about Liminrus. The Wolf King himself, with a grudge the size of a planet, and the Space Wolves. Those guys are basically berserkers in power on Earth. This is not going to end well.
It was the beginning of the end. The Emperor's judgment had been passed, and the Space Wolves, fueled by their righteous fury and their hatred for Magnus and his sorcery, they were more than eager to carry out his will.
So the stage is set. The wolves are at the door. And Prospero, the jewel of Magnus's knowledge, it's about to be engulfed in flames. But that's a story for another time, right?
Indeed. The burning of Prospero, a tragedy of epic proportions, a brother battling brother, a world consumed by fire and fury. That's where we'll pick up next time.
Last time on the Warp Gate, we left Magnus facing some pretty serious consequences for his actions.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Prospero, his homeworld, about to face the full wrath of Liminrus and his Space Wolves. Talk about a bad day at the office.
It really was. The Space Wolves, fueled by the Emperor's decree and you know, their own suspicions about Magnus and his sorcery, they just descended upon Prospero with incredible ferocity, like a pack of wolves cornering their prey.
Okay, so paint me a picture. What did the fall of Prospero look like? Give me those gritty details from the Inquisition's archives.
Imagine the sky just filled with fire, the fiery trails of drop pod Space Wolf warships blotting out the sun, the peaceful, scholarly atmosphere of Prospero just shattered by the thunder of bolter fire and the roars of the Space Wolves.
And what about the Thousand Suns? I mean, they weren't exactly slouches when it came to combat, but I mean, were they ready for this kind of attack?
The Thousand Suns, they were caught off guard. They were unprepared for such a brutal assault, and they were overwhelmed. The Space Wolves, you know, driven by their primal fury, their thirst for vengeance, they just rampaged through the libraries and the cities of Prospero, just leaving a trail of destruction in their wake.
Hold on, didn't the Thousand Suns have like some pretty strong psychic powers? Couldn't they have just, I don't know, mind blasted those wolves back to Fenris?
Well, they did put up a fight. They used their powers to defend their homeworld, but the Space Wolves, especially the elite Wolf Guard, they had this natural resistance to psychic attacks. You know, a resilience born from their savage nature and their connection to Fenris, their homeworld.
So it was a real clash of titans, right?
Yeah.
Psychic energies versus like brute force, ancient knowledge versus like raw savagery. I mean, what a scene.
It was brutal. It was bloody. The Inquisition, they tell tales of entire squads of Thousand Suns just wiped out by a single blow from a Space Wolf power fist. And even the most powerful Psychers, they found their powers faltering against the ferocity of the Space Wolves.
And remember, the Space Wolves weren't just fighting with bolters and chainswords. Some of them were transforming into those monstrous wolfen.
Ah, yes, the wolfen, the ancient curse that lived within the blood of the Space Wolves, unleashed in moments of extreme raid for peril. Imagine these hulking beasts possessed of just inhuman strength and ferocity, their armor bursting apart as they transformed into these creatures of primal fury.
It's not your average Tuesday morning, huh?
Not exactly. No, facing the Wolfen was like battling demons given flesh and fang. They tore through the ranks of the Thousand Sons. Their howls just echoing across the burning ruins of Tisca, the grandest city of Prospero.
Man, talk about a bad break. You've got your homeworld under attack, your Primarch's censured, your sons are mutating, and now you've got werewolf-like berserkers tearing you limb from limb. What's a Thousand Son to do?
Well, in the heart of all this carnage, amidst the burning ruins of his once glorious city, Magnus, he confronted Leman Russ. It was a
Yeah.
clash of Primarchs, a battle for the ages.
Okay, hold on. Pause the action for a second.
Uh,
I need a moment to picture this.
Yeah.
Magnus the Red, the Crimson King,
oh,
a giant cyclops wielding unimaginable psychic power, and facing him, Limenruss, the Wolf King, the savage warrior with the fury of a blizzard. This isn't just a fight. This is a clash of ideologies, right? A showdown between two totally different visions for the Imperium.
Right. Their duel wasn't just physical, it was a battle of wills, a clash of philosophies that mirrored the very conflict that was dividing the Imperium.
So who won? Did Magnus unleash his full psychic fury? Did Russ just howl at him until he surrendered? What happened?
The records they're a little bit fragmented, but they describe a battle of unimaginable scale. Psychic energies clashing against the raw power of the warp. I mean, the very fabric of reality twisting and warping around them.
So imagine buildings crumbling, the ground splitting apart, the sky itself ablaze with psychic energy. This is a fight that would make even the Chaos Gods stop and take notes.
Yeah.
But
But in the end, Magnus, already weakened by his earlier bargain with the warp entity and the strain of shattering the wards around Terra, he was defeated.
hold on. So even Magnus the Red, this master of the warp, this psychic powerhouse, he couldn't defeat Leman Russ. That's got to be a blow to the ego.
It was a crushing defeat, but even in defeat, Magnus, he managed to escape Prospero with a handful of his most loyal followers.
So the Crimson King, defeated but not broken, flees his burning homeworld with a ragtag band of survivors. It's like something out of a classic war movie, right? Where the hero retreats to fight another day.
It was a bitter victory for Leman Russ. Prospero was left a smoldering ruin, its grand libraries reduced to ash, its people scattered or slain. The Thousand Sons, once a beacon of knowledge and enlightenment, now branded heretics, hunted by the very Imperium they had sworn to serve.
Man, what a tragic end to such a promising legion. What about those survivors? Where did they go? What happened to Magnus and his followers after they escaped?
Their journey took them into the darkest corners of the galaxy, fleeing the Imperium's wrath. Their fate, it's uncertain. They became wanderers in the warp. Their existence, a testament to the consequences of ambition, of pride, and the allure of forbidden knowledge.
So they're out there, somewhere in the vastness of space, these remnants of a once glorious legion carrying the weight of their past and the burden of their Primarch's fall. It's a haunting thought.
It is, and their story, like the Horus Heresy itself, it serves as a reminder of the fragility of empires, the seductive power of forbidden knowledge, and the consequences of choices made in desperation.
Well, with that, we close the book on this chapter of the Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
But the story, it doesn't end here. The echoes of Magnus's fall will continue to reverberate throughout the Imperium, shaping the destiny of countless worlds and forever altering the course of history. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Horus Heresy. We'll see you next time on the Warp Gate.